welcome back to Nails Before Films. Today I'm concluding my review of the Alien franchise with their latest film, Alien Romulus. I've already reviewed the sequels and prequels of Alien and the 2 crossover movies with Predator. The links for those are in the description. I think Alien Romulus is okay, at least I'm not bored out of my mind when watching it, but it's just so uncreative. While it's not a terrible film, I don't get why I wouldn't just watch the original Alien or Aliens instead of Romulus. Anyway, let's get into it. Romulus takes place sometime between Alien and Aliens. A bunch of young miners in a Weyland-Yutani colony decide to scavenge a decommissioned ship, Romulus, hoping to find cryopods that would help them travel to a better planet. Of course, they encounter xenomorphs on the ship and most of them die. Only the final girl and her droid brother survive. The movie starts out fine. I do like how they expand the alien universe and we get to see more of this futuristic world where intergalactic travel is possible. I actually like the group of youngsters at first because they're not a carbon copy of the Nostromo crew. Because of their young age, they're not as mature and sometimes even a bit brash. It's understandable that they want a better future for themselves, and you even feel a bit bad for Rain when Weyland-Yutani forcefully doubles her quota for a travel permit. That being said, I'm not a big fan of their plan of getting cryopods and traveling to another planet. Is it really that easy? You can just go to another planet as you please. Nobody's going to check any documents once you get there. Aren't they technically illegal immigrants? You think that moving to another planet would be difficult, but no, you can just go if you have the means, apparently. Another small thing that bugs me at the beginning of Romulus is when Rain is considering the other's proposition. She sees a random miner walk by, and that random miner just so happens to bring a caged bird with him. Seriously, you think you need to show us a bird in a cage for us to get that Rain is trapped? It's so random, and I feel like the movie thinks I'm an idiot. I get that Rain feels trapped. You don't need to show me random imagery. If you were to show me how trapped Rain is, maybe have her look at the double working hour quota or something. That would make much more sense than a random person passing by carrying a random caged bird. Anyway, I started liking the movie less and less after the group got to Romulus. First, when they get trapped in the cryo chamber, why do they just stand around and wait for Rain and Andy to figure it out? You know they can always try physical force, right? The door isn't shut all the way. Why not use some of the stuff in the cryo chamber to pry the door open? If it doesn't work, then fine. They can just wait for Andy to reboot. But why not try something else in the meantime? It's even more frustrating when Rain starts banging the door later when the face huggers are loose. Why not start doing that earlier? I also don't like how the youngsters behave after discovering what happened on Romulus. They are really fortunate compared to the crew of Nostromo or the military squad of aliens because they know exactly what's going on due to the droid giving them an exposition dump. Do they act smarter because of it? Absolutely not. When one of them gets face hugged, they assume it's fine after getting the face hugger off of her. Why not wait a few minutes until you guys are sure whether or not she's got an alien inside her? I feel like the asshole guy who hates droids is stupid for the sake of being stupid. He's really eager to get the girl whose face hugged back to their ship and even abandons Rain and the other guy. Why? You know the risk. Even Andy tries to stop you, and the pregnant girl is never going to agree to leave without her brother. What exactly do you want to achieve? I get that you hate droids, that part checks out, but why endanger everyone, especially when you know the exact danger? Later, it's super convenient that their ship just so crashes into the hangar of Romulus, but it's still perfectly operational. And it just knocks Romulus enough to put the characters in a dire situation, but still gives them a reasonable amount of time to escape. I roll my eyes during that part because it's just so darn convenient. Anyway, of course a xenomorph bursts from the pilot girl and it kills the asshole guy. It tries to use the pregnant girl to get the others, but Andy does the logical thing and refuses to open the door because he works for the company now. I have 2 problems with this. If Andy is really working for the company, why does he still help the humans? He could have closed the door much earlier when they were running away from the face huggers, but he didn't. He timed it perfectly so that the guy could escape in the nick of time. Why take that chance if your prime directive is to do what's best for the company? And I don't get how the humans still follow Andy after he blatantly tells them that he works for the company now. This droid could betray you at any time or sacrifice you if he thinks it's in the interest of the company. Why would you still follow him? I get that they don't really have any better options and they need Andy's assets, but it's weird how they don't even consider any alternatives. Also, it's extremely stupid how the guy talks to his sister when they're trying to avoid the face huggers. I get that she's in a pinch and desperately needs your help, but you wouldn't be any help if you're dead. It's ridiculous how he doesn't immediately turn off his comm when it starts making sounds. And it's even more ridiculous how long it takes for the face huggers to notice them. The thing is super loud. How are they not onto the humans immediately? Anyway, Andy and the two humans make it to the lab where there's this black goo, possibly a version of the ridiculous black goo from Prometheus, and it's supposed to evolve humans. Andy's job is to take the black goo back to the colony, so they arm themselves with plasma rifles. Yay! The guy even teaches Rain about the rifle like Hicks did in Aliens. At this point, Romulus is getting a bit tedious. It seems it's trying to shove every iconic scene of the Alien franchise into the movie. Yes, we love the scene with Hicks and Ripley because it's great how they warm up to each other and they both earn the respect of the other person. It's nice to see them share a romantic moment that's smoothly written into the story. But the scene with Rain and the guy just feels hollow. It's obviously just a reenactment of Ripley and Hicks' interaction, and there's absolutely no build-up for it. The trio then passes through a xenomorph nest, and of course, the pregnant girl is there, so they have to save her. Again, I don't understand why Andy doesn't just leave them and avoid going into the nest. And where does this nest come from? They don't have an alien queen, so it's pointless to make a nest. Whatever, the guy then dies and Andy is put out of service. Rain and the pregnant girl have a chance to escape, but of course, Rain goes back to save Andy. She manages to take out the module that's making Andy loyal to the company, and then there's this pretty cool scene of Rain shooting xenomorphs in zero gravity, and their acid blood flows around. That scene does look good and it's creative. It hasn't been done before in the other movies. However, it's weird how gravity comes back after a certain period of time. I really don't get the logic behind this design, and wouldn't that damage the ship's equipment? You're essentially slamming them into the ground repeatedly. Romulus falls further apart after that cool zero-gravity acid scene. When Andy and Ren are trying to escape through the elevator chute, Rain falls, and I kid you not, a xenomorph catches her and saves her from falling to her death. What the fudge? Why would a xenomorph do that? Even if its goal is to let the facehugger impregnate Rain, why not injure her and make sure she can't escape? Xenomorphs have no problem injuring people, and they can still cocoon and use them as hosts. They've never saved any human and even avoided harming them. It just makes no sense. Anyway, Andy saves her and even says, "Get away from her, you bitch." Yes, it's as hollow as it sounds. The two then escape to their ship and Romulus crashes, but the movie has to get one more reference in. So the pregnant girl injects herself with the black goo and gives birth to a white humanoid alien, a reference to the newborn in Alien Resurrection. If you watch my review of the Alien sequels, you know that I freaking hate the newborn. It's hideous and not at all scary. Why would you do that again? Just for shock value and nostalgia? But why? A lot of people hate the newborn like me, so why even bring this idea back? Unsurprisingly, the newborn thing kills its mother and Rain defeats it by ejecting it into space. You know, the usual. Romulus just relies too heavily on nostalgia and feels so hollow. It just rehashes ideas from Alien films. Some people say it fills in the blanks between Alien and Aliens, but I'm more confused about what happened in those 57 years than before. This film confirms that the company does know about the xenomorphs all along. So why do they explore the alien nest only after Ripley tells them about it in Aliens? And how do they have so many facehuggers? They don't have a queen. Did they clone the facehuggers? Then why hasn't the company tried to clone more in 57 years? surely they would at least have some of the data from Romulus. I find it hard to believe that everything is destroyed with that station. And it's weird how the company has made no attempt to retrieve the black goo from Romulus themselves if it's so important. Surely they would know about the incident that has occurred on Romulus, or at least be suspicious as to why the station has lost contact. Anyway, visually the movie is okay. Like I said, the zero gravity acid is pretty cool. However, it's not very scary. The jump scares are very predictable. The guy who plays Andy is good, but that's pretty much it. There's nothing else that impresses me in Romulus. And the deep fake Ian Holm is honestly unnecessary and does feel somewhat disrespectful and creepy. That's basically my thoughts on Romulus. I don't think it's terrible, at least it didn't bore me out of my mind, but I can't say I enjoyed watching it either. Because of its heavy use of nostalgia and references to other Alien movies, Romulus feels hollow and unimaginative. I'd prefer Alien and Aliens over this film any day. This concludes my review of the Alien franchise, and I did a face hugger nail this time. It's not as good as the Chestburster nail, but I think I did okay. Hope you guys like my review and nails. I'm still sick, so that's why my voice sounds weird. Because Transformers 1 just came out and I'm a huge Transformers fan, I'll probably do that next time. As always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment, share, do what you want. Follow me on other social media if you like, links are in the description. Keep nailing it and don't be as unimaginative as Romulus, people.